Hello everyone, welcome back to our Legal Exams 2026 PYP series. In this series, we are decoding the most important parts of the Constitution of India using a comprehensive PYQ compilation document, which is linked in the description below. If you have not watched the previous 3 videos yet, where we covered the overall constitution weightage, preamble, and part 1, along with part 3, fundamental rights, I highly recommend that you watch them first because this entire series is designed to give you a structured roadmap for preparation. Also, do not forget you can access the free Constitution PYQ document from the link in the description below. This document is extremely important because it compiles exam-wise and topic-wise PYQs, something that is otherwise very difficult to find. And in this series, we are using this very document to decode each important part of the Constitution so that you know what to study, what to prioritize, and what to skip. Now, let's start with part 4 of your Constitution, which deals with directive principles of state policy. As you can see on the screen, this is the index, which is extracted directly from our PYQ documents. A total of 14 questions have been asked from part 4 across your 10 different examinations, making it a moderate but extremely consistent area of assessment. If we break this down, CBI APP in the year 2016 had asked 2 questions, right? And in 2025, it asked 1 question. SEBI has consistently asked questions from 2022 to 2025, 1 question each in 2022 and 2023, and 2 questions each in 2024 and 2025. IBPS SO in 2024 has asked 2 questions. NICL, SJVN in 2025 and RBI in 2009 have asked 1 question each. So part 4 may not be as heavy as fundamental rights, but it is extremely consistent across exams, especially for SEBI as well as IBPS SO, right? Now, so the conclusion is this makes it a must-cover area. You simply cannot afford to skip it, right? Now let's understand what exactly is being tested from part 4. Across these examinations, 3 questions were from the general understanding of DPSPs. 3 questions each were from Article 39A, which deals with free legal aid and equal justice, Article 44, your UCC, and Article 50, which deals with the separation of judiciary from the executive. These questions mostly focused on your index, that means your article numbers and title. So most of these questions were regarding article number, title, and the broad index retention. Then we also had the Bare Act verbatim questions, right? Almost for every section. And thirdly, we also had some theory questions. What do you understand by Bare Act verbatim and theory? What do these terms mean? Bare Act verbatim basically means questions that go beyond, questions that directly come from the exact language of the Constitution. That is your Bare Act. Theory basically refers to the questions that go beyond the text, requiring conceptual clarity and deeper understanding. We also saw 1 judgment-based question under Article 34 in CBI APP 2016 exam. Questions from Article 40 and 43 mostly were Bare Act based only. Most questions from DPSPs, they revolved around, like I said, article, title, and numbers, as well as your Bare Act verbatim, that is the direct language of the Constitution. So your primary focus should be Bare Act plus index retention. Now let's look at the theory-based questions, which are slightly advanced. First, we have IBPS SO of 2024, which basically asked about the doctrine of separation of powers. Now, even though it is not directly written in part 4, Article 50 of the Indian Constitution, right, basically reflects this particular principle, which is separation of judiciary from the executive. What is the primary aim of this doctrine? That is to prevent concentration of power in one organ. If all powers are in one hand or in one organ of the government, it will lead to misuse, arbitrariness, and it is going to threaten the democracy. So power is divided into legislature, executive, as well as your judiciary. And each acts as a check on the other. The second kind of theory-based question was in RBI 2009, which asked what DPSPs actually are. And the correct understanding was that DPSPs are basically the positive instructions to the state, meaning they basically guide the government on what it should do, that they are not enforceable, but they are also very fundamental in governance, right? This directive principles are not enforceable by any court. However, they are fundamental in governance. Where is it written? Article 37. So think of DPSPs as goals for the state. They are not enforceable rights, but guiding principles. Now, coming to the only judgment based question from this part, this was asked in CBI APP 2016. The question was based on your Shah Bano case, right? Now, in this case, the Supreme Court upheld a Muslim woman's right to maintenance, right? Now, and it emphasized the importance of Article 44, that is, an importance of Uniform Civil Code under Article 44. Right? So the key takeaway was Article 44 UCC. The court said that it helps in national integration. However, this judgment also led to political controversy, and eventually, the Muslim Women Act of 1986 was also sort of came into play. So for your exam, remember Article 44 as the article which contains UCC. The basic idea of this judgment is enough, but you should be knowing that Article 44 deals with Uniform Civil Code. Now let's talk about the index-based questions, especially important for exams like SEBI. Now in SEBI 2022 and 2024, questions were asked like which part contains DPSP or which article basically deals with a specific directive. For example, they asked that equal pay for equal work is provided under which part of the Constitution. So since this is contained under Article 39 Clause D, right, it eventually comes under your broader aspect of Part 4 DPSPs, right? So this required linking, your 39 or your basically your article topic with the part. So this is exactly why you must learn the index of the Constitution properly. Finally, the most important category was the Bare Act questions, right? Before I move to the Bare Act questions, another question where simply as to the question was regarding where directive principles of state policy sort of falls under which part of the Constitution, which was part number 4. So you should also understand the broader scheme of index and how the parts are organized within the Constitution. Now coming to the next part, which is the Bare Act verbatim questions, right? So this is again the most important category of Bare Act questions. These form the majority of questions, right? If I were to talk about SEBI 2025, Article 44, right? It basically asked about Article 44, its legal nature and enforceability, right? And it was used to test the broader understanding or broader aspect or non-enforceability of DPSPs. So this required linking your Article 44 with Article number 37 that we saw, right? Article 37 basically says that Article 44 is a DPSPs and it is not directly enforceable by courts, which is given under Article 37, right? Another example was a fill in the blank question where It basically asked that the village panchayats should function as, and the correct answer was units of self-government, right? So this comes directly from your Article 40, right? So if you have read the Bare Act properly, you can solve these questions instantly. Now, coming to the descriptive part, we saw 3 questions across 3 exams. RBI asked 2 short note questions on the right to education, right? So ideally, it was a question that particularly comes under Article 21A, which is a fundamental right to education. However, a complete answer would also include Article 45, which talks about education below 6 years, and Article 46, which talks about weaker sections, along with Article 51A, Clause K, which is a fundamental duty where the duty is given, is basically the duty is there on the parents and the guardians of a child to provide education, right? So this shows that descriptive answers require interlinking multiple provisions. And then in NABARD phase 2 of 2022, there was another question where the importance of DPSPs along with its relationship with fundamental rights was basically asked. So this is a theoretical plus a judgment based question. So for descriptive part of your examination, you should focus on, of course, the concepts that are given in the Bare Act, along with the interlinkages and landmark cases, right? Before we wrap up, a quick announcement. We are launching a new batch for ICAI Legal, and the introductory class is scheduled on 23rd of April 2026. For those who do not know, ICI basically stands for your Institute of Chartered Accountants of India, and it has recently announced 15 vacancies, right? 15 legal vacancies for law graduates as well as freshers. So we have already uploaded a detailed video on this notification. Do watch it and apply. Today is the last date to apply. So the link for this particular course, along with the official notification and this YouTube video, are given in the description below. Please check it out. That's it for today. In the next video, we will be covering part 4A, fundamental duties. If you found this session helpful, do like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel. Also, do not forget that we drop one video in this series every Wednesday, right? I will see you in the next class. All the best.